welcome to Call for Saul. This is Nathan Beverly. I'm really glad to be back doing another video, which is what I love to do, putting something else out there that I really care about. And today I'm going to be going in a slightly different direction. I know that a lot of times my videos, and really a lot of what my videos have to do with, it really is on a serious note. It's about some very negative things that are happening in our culture, in our society, and how we need to stand up to that. I always want to emphasize, though, that there is hope in all of this. There is hope through, number one, through Jesus Christ. We have a risen Savior. There is a better kingdom to come, and this all is going to end well for those that know Christ. So at the end of the day, these are just bad linings in an overall glorious context. But here and now is where we have to live. So a lot of times what I'm going to be covering is going to be pretty heavy, is going to be pretty weighty, serious, of a serious nature, and things that we need to call out. We need to shed light on what is happening in our culture today, and how we as a church need to stand up and be the salt and light that we should be, and how we need to reclaim our voice in society, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the national conscience, for the sake of God's moral law, and for the sake of the need for repentance in the gospel message. That is my core theme. However, today I'm going to be covering something, and every once in a while I wanted to just bring out a hope highlight. This is a hope highlight. I was encouraged when I was reading the news this last week. And this is something in the news that you can hardly get away from right now if you're on social media at all. And this is the Canadian trucker convoy. The Freedom Convoy is what they're calling it. And there's some very good things happening. Some things that should really encourage us in what we are about. And freedom for Christians is not just a political issue. It goes deeper than that. I want to cover that and why that's important. Just a little bit. Hopefully today will be briefer. Hopefully you can hang with me. Today we're going to be doing a couple different things. I'm going to be reading an article by, actually, of all places, by the New York Times, so hardly a paragon of conservative news, a news source. But I think there's some things that we can learn from it. There is a somewhat fair treatment, I think, and in some ways not, because it's New York Times, of course, and we'll get that. But there's a fairly a pretty good treatment of overall of what's going on. At least we're getting some of the major things that are going on. It's not ignoring it. So that in that sense, I'm glad. But the other thing I want to talk about is I want to play a clip. And this clip is by Jordan Peterson. And this clip is absolute fire. This will ignite you to stand up for freedom, to stand up for what is right, and to not back down. And I hope you're that kind of person. Sorry, I'm trying to get my lighting just right here. And yes, so Jordan Peterson, he's a power. He is an intellectual powerhouse. If you haven't seen some of his clips, just look him up on YouTube. He goes against the elite educational narrative that we see from the secular elite in the ivory towers of education today. And that is refreshing to me when we see somebody like that has more than just a normal, regular guy with a regular brain like you and me, but somebody who actually has a lot of intelligence, who is a professional in his field, in the educational field, is willing to stand up and go against the grain and say, wait a minute, this is not right, and I must speak for truth. I will go against the narrative because I believe in the truth more than anything else. And Jordan Peterson is a refreshing breath of fresh air. He is a breath of fresh air, and he will rouse. I believe he will rouse us to stand up ourselves, and I hope it will for you. It's like a 2 or 3 minute clip, and I hope you can hang with me. That's going to be closer to the end of this clip. Hopefully you can hang with me and watch it. If you don't want to hang with me through this whole video, it won't be too long, but you can skip ahead, and hopefully you can see that clip, because it's downright rousing. So without further ado, I want to get to this article by New York Times, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to read some clips from it, most of it. It's not very long. And this was dated, I believe it was yesterday, February 5th at February 5th. And this is titled "Truck Protest Against Pandemic Measures Spread Across Canada." Okay, so that's hardly a liberal-sounding bias there. It says a demonstration that began last weekend in Ottawa against vaccine mandates expanded on Saturday, and others took place in Toronto and Quebec City. That's the kind of summary statement. And it says thousands of protesters across Canada took to the streets on Saturday for the second weekend in a row, snarling traffic, disrupting businesses and residential neighborhoods, and leading the police to compare the demonstrations to a siege on the nation's democracy. Now you can take that quote from one police officer, or maybe even the chief of police that may be, biased and liberal himself. So that doesn't say anything about democracy, siege. I mean, that's probably one person's view, but we'll go on. What began last month with truckers complaining about mandated vaccines for crossing the border from the United States has grown into a catch-all movement for a variety of anti-government causes, laying bare deep resentment within Canada's political right. While the police and officials brace for rowdy crowds and potential violence, the atmosphere of the demonstrations by Saturday evening, though boisterous, remained mostly peaceful and festive. I want to stop right there and just say this. Compare this to the summer of riots that we had in 2020. Burning, looting was the mainstay. And with this, we have, even the media has to say, remember they were saying, oh, these were mostly peaceful protests as the buildings were burning behind them. Now they're saying, well, the conservatives, the truckers here, that are protesting these, I'll use the word requirements, jab requirements, they are mostly peaceful. Mostly peaceful, burning buildings and looting, and mostly peaceful just coming in, parking your trucks, honking your horns, causing some disturbance, but not grinding everything to a halt, not forcing people out of your zone, not burning, looting, destroying property. Both of them are called, mostly peaceful. I'm glad that they're at least saying this is mostly peaceful. They should say overwhelmingly peaceful. I think they were actually, we'll look at the numbers of how many people were actually arrested in this. I mean, we're talking hundreds and thousands of people that are involved in this. There's always going to be some people that are taking advantage of the situation in any big protest like this. So keep that in mind. I'm not defending any kind of illegal activity, but we'll just keep that in mind. While the police and officials braced for rowdy crowds, okay, I already read that, but the police in Ottawa, the capital, admitted that they were overwhelmed by the crowds and warned that the noisy and disruptive protests posed a real threat. Well, I'm not exactly sure what I guess by the sheer size of it and so how few police officers they have, in case there are some people that get out of hand, they don't know if they'll be able to get to it, or in that sense. But overwhelmingly, these people are peaceful. Overwhelmingly, these people are not going to be people that are going to be looting and fire. So, I mean, define threat. Define threat. This is a siege. It is something that is different from our democracy, than I've ever experienced in my life, said Peter Slowly, chief of Ottawa Police. We do not have the sufficient resources to adequately and effectively address the situation, while tending to routine policing, he added. Well, that's probably very true. I mean, I wouldn't call it a siege. I mean, a siege is something where you're under attack, where you are, a city is being literally taken over permanently, and an enemy is coming in and causing, looting and pillaging. I mean, we're not talking about that at all. This is not the same thing. So using a siege is a very strong language. This is a temporary measure that people have decided, truckers have decided to say, because they want to be heard and they want to know, they want to have their rights back, and it makes sense. It makes sense, but we'll get into that. In Ottawa, despite frigid temperatures, a band performed on the street in front of Parliament Hill, and it just talks about kind of some of the activities they have. They have bouncy houses and things for kids. They have food stands. I mean, it's festive. It is not angry and smashing things and all of that. No, not at all. Even the New York Times is admitting this. While there were no serious injuries, okay, interesting, no serious injuries or uncontrolled violence. Definitely a good thing. Associated with the demonstrations over the past week, they have nevertheless paralyzed Ottawa's downtown core with traffic. Well, yeah, when you make a statement of this magnitude, yes, it has. It's caused some inconvenience. Yeah. Noise, traffic, noise, and complaints of harassment. Okay, I think harassment needs to be defined as well. And here he's saying, I've received hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of emails telling me I want to get out and get groceries. I got yelled at. I got harassed. I got followed down the street. I'm so afraid that I can't go out. Catherine McKinney, the city councilor of the area, said Thursday afternoon. Okay, so we got people that are feeling afraid for their lives, apparently, that they can't even go out and get groceries, that somehow somebody followed them. I mean, come on. I got yelled at? Harassed. What do you mean by harassed? You can't just throw that word out. That's all these words, all these incendiary words get thrown out there, but they're not defined exactly what happened. And even if very few actual harassments took place, unfortunately, when you have thousands of people, there are going to be some that go out of hand, unfortunately. And that should never be the case. There's no defense of that, but it doesn't mean that we nix protests. We nix big protests. It means that those things are going to happen and they need to be dealt with individually as they come up. Easy. The Ottawa Police said on Twitter on Saturday that they had received 400 calls related to the demonstration since they began, resulting in 50 investigations and 4 people being charged. Okay, over 400 calls. Of all the people that complained, there were 50 investigations and only 4 people actually being charged. And again, it doesn't mention what these people were being charged for. I mean, we could have like improper parking violations. That's probably what they were, to be honest. Throughout the area, many businesses have been closed for days, resulting in tens of millions of dollars in lost sales. Those that have remained open have struggled to enforce provincial mask rules. Okay, this is such hypocrisy, because all these businesses that are suffering, they're bewailing the businesses that are losing all the money. How about all the shutdowns? What did that do to businesses? What about all the COVID shutdowns? Now they're bewailing how businesses are suffering. Goodness. And what about and what if you're a business that's like, you know what? I'm going to cater to these truck drivers. I'm going to welcome them. You actually might get more business with all these extra people in town. Just saying that. I mean, I'm not a resident in that area, so I can't say, but just something to think about. So about 200 to 250 trucks remained in downtown. It's talking about how people are bringing fuel and firewood to the truckers. It's inspiring what's going on here. People are rallying to their cause. This is exciting. This is a huge freedom movement, unlike we've ever seen in Canada, and maybe like we've never seen. It's very different than anything we've ever seen in the United States. I mean, we've never had a trucker freedom convoy like this. But when you push the people and the freedoms, take away freedoms so far, there's going to be pushback. Shouldn't be surprising, but it's exciting. It's exciting that people are willing to finally have the courage to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Many residents of downtown Ottawa have turned their frustrations on the city police. So some of them are blaming the police for not aggressively shutting down, as they say, aggressively shutting down the protesters. Just see here. And the police are calling it, at least some in the police. I will not paint all the police this way. I'm sure the rank and file, most of them are not going to necessarily claim it this way. But it says, here's the chief of police is saying, the surge will deliver, they're going to put a surge of police to contain the strategy. He says the surge will deliver a clear message to the demonstrators. The lawlessness must end. Our goal is to end the demonstrations. Okay, so first of all, you're equating just lawlessness in general and saying that it needs to end with the demonstrations in general. That's not a fair equation. I'm going to get into real briefly the charter, the Canadian Charter of Rights, I believe is what it's called. It's kind of like our Constitution in the United States. And their charter is clear that people can demonstrate, that people can peaceably demonstrate. And so to say that this is just blanket statement, lawlessness, no. I mean, there may be a few instances of people that are taking advantage for and being lawless. But overall, as a general rule, this is not lawlessness. This is the people exercising their freedom of speech to stand up for freedom. And this should rally us to the cause. This is exciting. This is good. This is a good thing, people. In Toronto, dozens of cars, it goes on to talk about how people they're sounding their horns intermittently. Let's see here. This is at midday. Doesn't even say they're doing it at night, but just at midday. They heard sounds of horns and people shouting and truckers shouting freedom. What a horrible, like it's like, this is a bad thing. Having people shouting freedom from the housetops when freedom is being abridged, and that's a bad thing. No, this is the people rising up and saying enough is enough, peacefully, but yes, forcefully. Yes, with vigor and with the truth behind them. Protesters held up signs, etc., etc. The Toronto Police did announce that they had arrested one man for assault with a weapon and told the public to steer clear of the demonstrations. Again, no details. We don't even know if this was a person that was a counter-protest, crester, someone that was threatening the truckers. It didn't even say it was a trucker. It just said one man with assault with a weapon. That this could have been anybody that was in the mix. But we got to try to paint this, as negatively as we can. Although I do give New York Times props for actually bringing attention to this and giving some of the facts on the ground, which is not always done. And here's a man that's saying, "I'm here I'm here until whenever, I'm here until whenever, as long as it takes," said Mr. Lay, who said he wanted proof of vaccination and mask policies to be optional rather than mandated. So these truckers, their message is not, we're against the I'm not going to say it, the jabs. We're against the jabs. We want these. No one should be taking it. No, they're not saying that at all. They just want to be able to have the freedom to make their own choices. My body, my choice, right? Really? I mean, when did that get thrown out the window? Anyway, seriously, I mean, these are individual rights that are being taken away, and people are having to lose their jobs, their careers. Decades sometimes they've been working because they don't want to take an experimental jab. These people just want their freedom. It talks about some of the major arteries have been, in Quebec City, dozens of tractor-trailer cabs were parked too deep for 3 blocks along the major arteries through the downtown area. So it's slowing people down. It's making it inconvenient. Okay. Thousands of people lined the sidewalks cheering on truckers as they arrived or drove past, and a large crowd gathered in front of the legislature, dancing and trying to stay warm as they listened to a series of speakers. So again, it goes into some of the people's, responses, how excited they are. Now here's something that I think is very telling, a statement. This is this is what somebody said that was against the protests. He says, if they have a cause, they have to do it respectfully. This is the only way to be listened to and understood. Otherwise, police officers will have to do their jobs. So this person's against the protests, and he says they got to do this respectfully. I mean, if they wanted us to listen to them, they want to be heard and understood, they've got to be respectful. In other words, them blaring their horns, them slowing traffic down, them making it more difficult to get out and get places at a normal amount of time, that is completely just, that's just affecting our way of life. And we don't like it, and so therefore we're not going to, they can't expect for us to listen to them if they're going to be this way. That's basically what he's saying. He says otherwise the police officers are going to have to do their jobs. In other words, they're going to have to arrest them. This is a completely wrong way to look at it. First of all, they are doing it respectfully as they possibly can. But here's the key point here. He says this is the only way to be listened to and understood. No, this is huge. This is exactly why they feel they need to take this step, to go to these lengths, to drive across country, all the way to Ottawa, and quote-unquote occupy the city. Why is it? Because they feel they are not being listened to and understood, so they can have little protests, they can talk to the media, but guess what? The media is just like in America. The mainstream media is twisting their words, is making them look like they're a bunch of people that don't love their neighbors, that are endangering people because they don't want to wear a mask, or they don't even want to be, they definitely don't want to be jabbed. They're endangering people's lives, and they're painting them as these evil people and making them like this as like a two-tier society, where those who want to keep their jobs, those who want to go out to certain places and go to businesses and have a normal life like everybody else, they have to have the jab. And if they don't, I'm sorry, if you don't want to do that, you are just not understanding, you're not caring about your fellow man, and therefore we will treat you as less, as subhuman. You will not have the same rights. You will not be able to you'll not be able to keep your job, and you are just second-tier society. That is why they have to do this. That's why they feel they need to do this, because this will be heard. This has been heard. And I tell you, for my audience, for audiences much bigger than mine, you are hearing them. You are seeing what they are going through and what their message is, and how important it is, and that it can be done peacefully rather than tearing apart cities. I will say this, I kind of wish, let me pull up my view again. I'm wearing this t-shirt. Freedom is essential. I had to wear it today. It is essential. But especially those that our country relies on, Canada's country relies on, other countries rely on, they have essential jobs. But their freedom is also essential. Their freedom is just as essential as anyone else. So they deserve to have freedom. And I wish that I had Canadian flags on here for this as well, because Canada is actually a good example of how to stand up here, how to do it in the right way. So props to you Canadians out there that believe in freedom. This is exciting, and I stand in solidarity with you today. So with that being said, I want to get into this clip. Before I do, this clip from Jordan Peterson. This is exciting. But before I do, I'm just going to mention real briefly, what does this matter to Christians? What is this? Why should Christians care so much about freedoms being taken away? I mean, aren't we in society? Aren't we the ones who are, aren't we the ones supposed to submit no matter what the government says, as long as it's not telling us to sin? Romans 13. Well, Romans 13 is about government being good and exercising justice and fairness, and exercising punishment on the evildoers who would take advantage and be unfair to everyone else, and take it and be unjust. So the government's purpose is to bring justice to society based on what God says is what right and wrong, and protect people. That is not what's happening here. The government is actually going outside their bounds and it's standing against the people and taking away fairness and justice. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms states in Section 7 that they have the right to life and liberty. These rights are being taken away. So whatever laws, quote unquote, in the cities that are saying disturbing the peace, these laws are under their charter, right? They should be under their charter, and if they're going against the charter, they should be quote unquote, as we would say in America, unconstitutional. They should not be law. So they have a law in Ottawa saying that disturbance of the peace, if it's tumultuous, and as this is a tumultuous, I can't even say that word, but if it's tumultuous, then that is where it is unlawful. Well, honking your horns and partially blocking streets, if that's tumultuous, I don't know. I mean, that's up for opinion, I guess, for a judge or somebody like that. But really, it doesn't matter, because ultimately their laws should be under their charter. And if you're taking away people's freedom to be able to work any job that they want to, if you're taking away their freedom to go into a place as an establishment and do business anywhere, just because they don't want to take something into their own bodies, and they want to make that choice themselves, then that's unfair. That should be unlawful under their charter. It's against life and liberty, according to the Canadian government, according to the Canadian charter. So, same in America. We have the same standards. It's Western civilization. It's freedom, and it should be held up high above anything. It should be. So, all of these other laws are under these things. But the main thing I want to point out is biblically, I go back to the image of God. We are all created in the image of God. Therefore, we all have worth. We all have value as an individual, just by virtue of the fact that we are created in the image of God. Genesis 9:6 talks about this. It says this. I'm going to paraphrase, but it says that capital punishment was instituted because people are created in the image of God. That's why murdering someone is so important. That's why a capital punishment was instituted in the Old Testament for murder, because mankind was created in the image of God. There's intense worth and value in each person, and each person should be treated fairly and with great dignity. And when you start treating people, you start taking away their rights, then you are not treating them fairly, and you're not treating them with dignity. They're God-given rights. So they would be no different than, for example, our civil rights laws. Just as any people of color or people of minorities should have the same exact rights to be treated fairly, just like anybody else. And we made those laws in the 60s in the United States. Just as much of a way, in a similar way, anybody that has political speech should be given the right to be able to give that political speech. And I don't even want to call this political speech. This goes beyond this. These are just regular people that want to make a decision for their own body and want to keep their career. I mean, these are just people that want to live their lives, and we're going to treat them as second-class citizens. I mean, this goes to the image of God. I mean, do we in a democratically elected society, in a supposedly free society of the West, do we still value individual freedom? Do we value individual civil rights? Do we value the image of God? Is it because we just arbitrarily state that people should have rights? Well, if we arbitrarily state that, and they don't come from God, they don't come from a higher authority or any other reason, then the government can take them back away again. If they come from government, the government can take them back when they want to decide to make those laws. But if we believe and we hold to in our like we do in our Constitution, that our rights are given to us by God, and we believe that God created each person with dignity, and He created each person with unique value, because they are created in the image of God, and because of that, they should be afforded rights that are just absolutely basic in society. If we believe that, then we will believe as Christians that we need to stand up against government infringement of those rights that are being taken away, especially in our country, where we have the right to speak out, we have the right to vote, we have the right to make a difference. In fact, we have a responsibility to do that. In Western civilization, we have those. Much of the world doesn't have that, and we almost take those things for granted. But we have a unique responsibility to keep those rights and keep government accountable, keep them being fair, keep them being just, because we have a piece of the pie of governing We are partially, the people are the government. We are representatives are the government, but we are also the government. We are the ones that hold them accountable, and it's up to us. It's up to us. So yes, Christians, as people that believe this even more than anybody else, we should believe it. It's in the Word of God. We stand up for the image of God. We stand up for freedom. We stand up for rights. Here's the clip from Jordan Peterson.
Today on my tour. Hello, everyone.
Here we go.
I'm in Miami today on my tour. It's the end of January. I've been watching what's happening in Canada over the last 10 days, let's say, or months before that too. Wondering what's going on and trying to think it through. I thought I'd make a video today, message to Premier Scott Moe and Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, Erin O'Toole, and ask you guys, what in the world are you waiting for? It's your moment. You've got a huge number of Canadians occupying Ottawa, expressing their dismay with the suspension of our charter rights in the face of this so-called emergency. Our Prime Minister has literally abandoned the city, run away, as far as I can tell, citing security concerns because I think he believes his own propaganda about the nature of the people who are sitting in Ottawa, and then lying about it, justifying it as a consequence of being exposed to COVID, despite the fact he's double vaccinated and tested negative.
Can you believe that?
You're not going to get a better opportunity. This is your moment, Conservatives in Canada.
Yes.
You could come out and say to the population, say to the people who are desperate to hear this, that we can have our lives return to normal, and that there's still some danger, but that we've got this with competent leadership and care. We could return our lives to what they should be.
Yeah.
We could have our country back. We could move forward into the future in a normal manner. So, gentlemen, Premier Scott Moe, Jason Kenney, Doug Ford, you're good men. Erin O'Toole, you're the leader of the opposition. Man, even the NDP leader came out and said that the truckers were essentially a bunch of white supremacists for all intents and purposes.
Goodness.
The opposition, your opposition, our government is in disarray. And the people are doing everything they can to make their wants known. Guys, reassure Canadians. Remove these mandates that are crippling our businesses and interfering with our private lives and stopping us from being able to travel. Seize the day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for watching that. That's something else, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, seize the day. Here is Jordan Peterson. It's fire. I mean, he's being reasonable. He's calling good men. He's saying, good men, I know you're good men. I know you're good people. Take advantage of this. Rally around these truckers. Seize the day for common sense, right? Jordan Peterson, thank you, Dr. Peterson. If you ever will watch such a small YouTube production as mine, thank you very much, and Godspeed to you. And I want to say, Godspeed to every one of you truckers out there. I stand in solidarity with you. You have courage. You know this argument. You know this is bigger than yourself. And I don't see a lot of pride. From what I've seen, I just see people that are using their common sense, and they care about just having their freedoms, and they care about the freedoms overall of their countrymen. Thank you. Godspeed. And everyone who's watching this, you can be encouraged by this. May this propel you to have the courage to stand up for freedom, to speak out any way that you can, with hope, with joy, with a confidence of the truth on your side. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I can't wait to do another video that is this positive. I've had a lot of fun. Thank you very much. God bless.